Hi, everyone. Welcome back again to the Epic Podcast, the podcast where anybody can inspire everybody. And I'm Edric, your host. And this week, we are joined by Anna Ong. Anna is the storyteller and founder of WYSH, a consultancy based in Singapore and Washington, D.C., that provides coaching, consulting, and corporate workshops using techniques from storytelling and improvisation comedy. It's Epic Story Time with Anna Ong.
Oh my God, you still have a phone book?
1997 yellow pages. They were actually they were actually white pages, but now the yellow.
Okay.
Well, anyway, so Anna, thanks again for joining us for the Epic Podcast. Now, I'm very, very delighted to hear that finally I've got a storyteller on this podcast, courtesy of course, I think you may have met Ian. So shout out to Ian Wu, a friend and colleague of mine. Right. So, Anna, you are the founder and storyteller of WYSH. Now, WYSH is spelled as WYSH. What exactly is WYSH and WYSH?
So WYSH stands for What's Your Story, huh?
What's your story, huh?
Yeah, so that's the acronym of WYSH, because when I was looking for a name to start my company, I wanted to do it something around what's your story. But then WYSH does not really sound nice to the ears, so I need an H. So I was in a cafe. I think I was here in Singapore. I was in a cafe. I was like, what could be an H? I go, huh? And I go, oh my God, that's it. I have the name. What's your story, huh? Singaporean style. Or what's your story, huh? American style.
Right. Correct. If it were WYS, then of course it would be a company that would be storytelling with a lisp. That would be a bit different.
Yes, exactly. It does. So WYSH is, and also because I sometimes get, my company's name is WYSH with a Y, because all your stories starts with your why.
Very interesting. And storytelling is not huge just yet. With certain corporates, I mean, as we go along, yes, the idea of storytelling does come in, but it's quite hard to understand to some extent why storytelling should be put in place. So on your end, right, what do you normally tell to the corporates, and why is storytelling so important to them and to themselves as individuals?
70% of all our communication is composed of stories, whether we're catching up with our friends as to what happened over the weekend or telling our boss our client report. We're all telling stories already. It's about being able to capture the imagination, doing it articulately in a short amount of time. That's the valuable skill. Consciously or unconsciously, most of our conversations revolve around stories. We just are not aware of it. We call it different names. We call it case study. We call it reports. We call it an article that we read, or an update. But it's still stories. That's what, and that's when I point that out to my clients, and they go, "Oh, if I'm already telling stories, then why do I need help in terms of storytelling?" So then this is where I tell them my specialty of storytelling is personal narratives. I'm not gonna teach you how to write your case study, because I'm pretty sure there's somebody else who is much better at it than I am. But I'm here to help you find your story, whether it is as a leader or as a founder, because knowing your story helps you identify with two things: why you do what you do, why it matters. It helps you connect with yourself, your authentic self, your North Star, and it also helps inspire others.
When did you first discover, your passion for storytelling? I'm sure that this wasn't exactly like the first thing that you jumped into. How'd you get started? What was your first corporate job first?
I was in banking.
and
I will tell you, I started in financial markets. I was in the trading floor. I dealt with numbers, and I dealt with bonds, stocks, foreign currency, time deposits.
And how'd that lead you down to storytelling?
So that is a long story. So
how appropriate.
It is a very long. It started in 2016. So my mom has always been wanted me to be a banker the entire time I was growing up. All my mom ever wanted for me to be was to be a banker, because my aunt her big sister was a banker, and she wanted me to follow her big sister's footsteps. Um, so so when I graduated from university, I applied to work for a bank, and I got a job in the financial markets in the
Mm.
trading floor, and I enjoyed it because like being inside the dealing room is very exciting. It's that's where also they keep the best and the brightest minds that they get, like because that's like the nerve center of the bank. Everything goes through that. So it was very exciting. I had a great career that lasted for about 15 years. It took me from the Philippines to Singapore by way through business school.
Mm.
But it came to a point where I wasn't excited about it anymore. Every job felt the
Mm.
same. That there wasn't like, sure, you get another promotion, great, you get more responsibility, great, but it doesn't light me up. But it wasn't bad. It's not like I hated it. Like, some people hate their jobs. And some people go, oh my God, banking,
Mm.
that's horrible. I don't hate it. I was good at it, but I don't love it either. I was kind of bored with it because I don't find it exciting, but it did give me a lifestyle that I got used to. I mean, I had a great life. I can't complain about, so maybe work is just work, but everything else is great. But it wasn't giving me a sense of satisfaction. So 2016, when the opportunity came for me to leave my job, I decided to take it. I was not planning on quitting my job the day I left. It was more like I had a meeting with my boss. He told me that he's moving on to a new role, and the role that he's moving on to. So normally he and I are a package deal. He goes, I go with him. I don't like that job, and he was pretty much the main reason why I stayed,
Mhm.
because he's a great guy. He's a great boss. So when he's moving there, so I told him, in a way, we're kind of breaking up. So I go, I think I'm done. So, and then he's like, oh, he goes, what? I go, no, I think I'm done. I want to go. So I quit my job, and my boss asked, so what are you going to do? So I said, I'm going to South America to learn Spanish and dance.
What? You what?
I said to him, I'm going to go to South America to learn Spanish and dance. I wanted to go to Buenos Aires and learn how to dance the tango. And yes, his reaction was, did you just make this up? And I told him, no, I've been daydreaming about it for a while, but now we execute the fantasy. So I booked a one-way ticket to Colombia, got rid of most of my stuff, left with 2 suitcases, um, and spent like about a year traveling around South America, learning Spanish and dance. I started in Colombia. I learned salsa, bachata, kizumba. Realized I hated salsa. Discovered tango there. Um, Traveled a little bit more, but for me, Buenos Aires was the promised land. That was where I
Mm.
was gonna go dance tango, and also I heard the best looking men in South America. So I moved to Buenos Aires and I fell in love with tango, that I treated it like a full-time job. Like I spent all day in dance class learning the different ways to dance tango. And at night I would go to the milonga, which is like where people go out and go dance tango. And it was a world like no other. I will just tell you this. Like they have I went to the traditional ones. The traditional ones is like it's like going back in time, like you're in 1930s. The men are dressed up in jackets. They wear those hats, those fedora hats. They um, they practice this like it's this ritual that we don't see anymore. Men sit on one side of the dance where women sit on
Mm.
the other. To ask a woman to dance, you have to make the eye contact. So they call it the mirror, the look. And the guy would make a signal to the dancer, the woman had to nod her head to assent. And then she waits for him to walk around the dance floor to pick her up. And I asked my dance teacher, why do I have to wait for him to pick me up? Why? I'm a modern woman. Why can't I ask him to dance? Or why can't I meet him straight in the dance? I go, well, one, you never ask a man to dance. This is Argentina. And two, he might be looking at somebody else and not you.
Mm.
So you have to wait for him to pick you up and dance. So I love that beautiful ritual and tradition that they have, because it's just so elegant. And to see people in their 70s, 80s dancing next to couples in their 20s, it's like one of those magical things that I remember in Argentina and tango. So I started with dancing, but after dancing for a year, setting up Anna Ong School for men who can't dance is not a lifelong dream. And my promise to myself was that if I was going to do anything else, I wanted a job that will give me both passion and purpose. I was passionate about dance, but I do not feel a sense of purpose about dancing because I don't love it enough that I want to make everyone learn, like make every man go how to dance. Though I keep giving that idea to every male dance instructor, but somehow it's still not being embraced. Uh,
Dance doesn't change
so,
the world kind of thing, right?
hey, it can save a lot of relationship and marriages.
I'll give it a shot. Okay. And then,
Anyway, and then so I went to San Francisco. My sister lives in San Francisco, and San Francisco for me was the land of passion and purpose. And except I realized when I was there and interviewing, I don't share their passion or purpose.
hmm,
So I so one night I was out with a friend and we went to see a stand-up comedy show. And in stand-up, it's always very male dominated. So I was very excited to see a female comedian on set. So I was so looking forward to her set. But when she came up on stage and told her jokes, I felt offended because she went below the belt. And
hmm,
okay, I think Edric, you've done comedy here in Singapore. I don't think as a woman I need to go below the belt to be funny, but that's me. I always think we don't have to go there to be funny because I appreciate humor in terms of wit, but I
right.
don't think you need to be crass. So I took offense and I started heckling her, and I got more laughs from the audience than she did. So I felt that if this is the bar for comedy, then I'm just gonna go to comedy. I'm prettier and I'm funnier. With that knowledge, I started looking at comedy schools and I decided that I was done with San Francisco. So I moved to the East Coast. But stand up sounded like too much work. And I saw
Hmm.
improv and I thought, oh, improv. I don't need to do anything. I just have to show up. I don't know what improv was, by the way, when I signed up for improv.
Okay.
I had absolutely no clue. I did not think that it was a team sport. On my first day of improv, I looked at, you mean I have to play with other people? I have to work. Nobody told me this was a team sport. And I remember the instructor said like, oh, you know, you'd be surprised to see people who sign up for improv without ever seeing an improv show. And I go like, that's me. But it pushed me out of my comfort zone, but it helped me grow. And I saw improv like dancing.
Hmm.
It's like dancing tango.
Yep.
It's about connecting with your partner. It's about give and take.
Yeah.
It's about being clear with your intention as to where you want to go, but allowing the other to also build in. So it's co-creating something.
Hmm.
And so I go, oh, improv is like dancing, but with words. So I kind of got into it, and in improv, one of the things that they normal we have a format called the Armando, which was founded by Armando Diaz, which is you start up with a truthful monologue, so it's something a story from your life, and then that story, just about 30 seconds to a minute or so, will inspire your team to create scenes inspired by that story. And I remember when I first started, I thought all these Americans like to overshare, telling all these personal stuff about themselves, and I
Hmm.
felt so uncomfortable. I never shared anything. Um, but on the night of our first show, after practicing with these guys for weeks, the improv coach tells me like, so there is a certain energy that once you have a team, once you've been working together, that comes in when you're on stage. Don't question it. If your body starts moving, just go. Don't think twice. Don't let your head get in the way. And and I remember it was time to do a monologue, and everybody was just looking. And then suddenly I felt my feet just moving up on stage, and I started telling a story about what happened when I was in Colombia. And that moment was when I got my epiphany, although I call it my ecclesiastical moment because it felt, the moment I opened my mouth and started telling the story, it felt as if, like a cartoon, the angels opened up, there was a beam of light on me, and the angels started singing Alleluia. And that is when it hit me. This is what I was meant to do. I was meant to tell stories. And I haven't even started storytelling yet. I just told my first story on stage and I thought, this is what I was meant to do. This is my calling. And that weekend, that night, I started Googling storytelling New York City. And there was a storytelling festival that's happening that weekend, right next to my yoga studio. I didn't even have to go far. It was literally at the comedy club right next to my yoga studio. So I went on my own, dragged my friends to come watch with me, and I met a bunch of storytellers there who told me about this world, this form of storytelling, which is a not so funny version of stand up, where people share personal stories and the differences between stand up, storytelling, and improv. And that was how I got into it. And I want to be one of those people who tell stories up on stage. I didn't understand it at first, but I decided that that's what I wanted to do. And so I started looking at forums. And what's nice in the United States is there's a lot of places for you to go up on stage and share stories. There's a lot of open mic places dedicated for storytellers. And so so I kind of just threw myself in it, like read up books in terms of storytelling. So there are one is a recent book that I read, Storyworthy by Matthew Diggs, but another one is Long Story Short. That was the first book on storytelling that I read, which is about how to tell your personal narrative on stage with people who have done it up on stage, and that kind of got me started. I also did find a program at Georgetown University called Social Impact Storytelling because I wanted to know how does storytelling apply in the workplace, and that was the only business-related storytelling program that I could find. And what I learned from Georgetown was that uh, how if you give you facts and figures, like say over 1 million people died of yellow river, um, no sorry, river blindness in Africa every year. That is the statistics. If I tell you about Nina, she's 5 years old. Every day she goes to the river to play with her friends, and she would sometimes drink the river. At the age of 6, she turned blind. Now suddenly I care because I can picture someone being affected by this. It's like coronavirus. We get like numbers like 200 people infected coronavirus. Okay, 200 people got infected. But we talk about this man, Mr. So and so. He got infected on his way to work, whatever. Suddenly we care because we can imagine it, we can picture it. And and so that was what I learned, like how you can apply storytelling for your mission, whether it is for fundraising. So in Georgetown, it's social impacts about fundraising, how to tell a story that will trigger the heart, how to tell a story that will move the heartstrings and or inspire people to join the movement. And and I that's how I started in the US in terms of storytelling. I think I went to a networking session and I started telling people. I treated networking. Do you love networking, Edric?
Oh, networking is fun.
Yeah. So I normally don't like networking. But I decided I was going to treat it like an improv scene. Every person I meet is my new scene partner. And at that time, I didn't have a job. So I was going to have to use reality as my job. And because I'm in the United States, I can make up any job I want to. There are people who call themselves chief happiness officers. So why can I even not be a kombucha chemist? So, because I was brewing kombucha at home, so I go, I'm a kombucha chemist. So I was making up different titles, and one of the titles I just said, I'm a storyteller because it's true. I go up on stage and I tell stories. And so one of the guys was asking, so what does a storyteller do in this DC tech startup networking session? So I said, oh, work with founders in helping them craft their stories because you want them. I help people craft stories using their own voice and their own tone because I don't write your stories out for you because then that would become my story. I help you write it in the way that you would speak it because I believe in authenticity. So he keeps asking me about my business, about my storytelling business. And I think this is a great idea. Somebody really should do it. And then I go, oh, well, why not me? And so I think after that, he gave me his card. He found me on LinkedIn, even though it was not updated whatsoever and had only my banking stuff, and contacted me and asked me to help him with his story. And that's pretty much how I started. I worked with a bunch of startups in Washington, D.C. on how to tell their founding story. And then when I was um, holidaying in Singapore on my way to Bali, so visiting some friends on my way to Bali for a wedding, I started telling my friends what I was doing in the United States. And they told me, why are you doing that there when you can make such a bigger impact here? We need it more in Asia.
Mm.
I saw my work here. Well, it's a bit harder to get people to wrap their head around storytelling because for some people they think it's marketing, it's selling,
Mm.
it's the latest buzzword. So it was a little bit harder. But whenever I do get that gig, it's transformational. Like when I see like how people light up and realize that I just made a connection, a real meaningful connection, not like just exchange card, shallow conversation.
Yeah.
Like I was seen, I was heard. That makes that makes my heart sing. And and I in the US, it's nice to have, but they can get it from it's like they can get it from a lot of other people. But here, it's transformational.
Mm.
And also here, because I am Asian, I prove to fellow Asians that you can do it too. You don't have to be a Westerner to be able to do this.
Mm.
Nobody says you have to grow up in the US to tell stories.
Right.
You
I
just
like
have to put in a bit of work.
yeah, I really really like the point that you were making, that you don't write the stories for them, because by and large, right, being from the corporate side of things, we're given a script. We're taught to read off a script. We're taught to memorize a script, but we don't. I mean, whenever I share this idea with others, is that you first of all, you memorize the script for what it is.
Yeah.
Then from there you need to internalize the script, right? So that you understand the read the under basically you understand the purpose of it. And then from there you need to interpret the script. Basically, is let yourself reword this entire thing and make it your own, express it
Right.
yourself. So I've been telling a couple of people, in the sales line, you should do it that way. Don't get stuck on this script in that sense. Find out what it is. So I completely agree with what you are doing in that sense, that you don't write the stories for them. You let them write their own stories, and then from there you tweak it a little bit based on who they are.
Because you also remember it better if it's in your own
Hmm.
voice, because this is you telling it to yourself. Well, also, I find that when I only come in is I can't come in to help them with the structure. Like, don't give it away yet. Like, how do
Hmm.
you build suspense? How do you keep people hanging to your every word when you tell a story? So, because sometimes people go like they tell you the ending, so you go, if you already told me how it ends, why am I going to listen to you? But if you keep me hanging, then I'll listen to what happens next, and then what, and then what. So I sometimes help them in terms of rearranging or just telling them like, don't tell me, show me. Help me picture it in my mind what you see. Don't tell me I saw something scary. I go, yeah, but I don't know what that is.
Extremely
Show
descriptive
me,
methods, yeah. Hmm.
describe me. Yeah, describe it to me so I see what you see. Then I feel what you feel. That you
Right.
don't have to tell me I feel scared. You can just say I suddenly felt very cold, and then my heart starts racing. So then I know that oh my god, you must be scared because your heart starts racing, or I could feel the hairs in my arm just starting to go, start to rise up. Then like, ooh, something scary is about to happen.
Yeah. I mean, yesterday when we were just chatting, right, you were mentioned that you
Yeah,
don't teach based on a structure. So
no.
that being said, if you don't teach based on the structure, how do you convey this idea, or is there a concept of storytelling that anybody can just pick up? I mean, Edric loves freebies, so leave one here, please.
Well, so if people would ask, like, what, so I guess, Edric, let me ask you this. What for you is a story?
What for me is a story?
What's your definition of a story?
Something with a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Okay. So, and so
Yeah.
that's pretty much it.
Yeah. That's the structure of a story, right? So the only
Yeah.
thing is that that's a skeleton, but I think
Mm-hmm.
we all, or at least most of us, would probably know that certain details, certain ways of phrasing things, certain descriptors and all this,
Like,
and yeah, would then give it more meat. So that being
correct.
said, is that what I think your area of specialty would be, or is it really just realigning the entire skeleton of the story in itself?
It depends.
Mm.
It depends also because some people are very good at crafting stories,
Mm.
and their shortcomings is how do I deliver it? How
Ah,
do I execute it? And some people are good at executing, but then they can't structure it. So,
right.
so there are people who are natural performers. So half the
Mm.
time I work with them in terms of like, how do we bring this story to life? Because it's not just structuring it well. Structuring it well is great if you're writing it and people can read it, it delivers in their head. But if you structured it well, but you have to deliver it orally, now how do you do that to
Right.
capture people's imagination? The voice, the power, how do you use the power of your voice? How do you
Right.
use the speed? Like when someone goes like, once upon a time in a
Mm.
far away land. It's like, once upon a time in a far away land. So sometimes it's all about the delivery.
Right.
So I work with people based on what their needs are.
Mm.
I would say one of the things is like, well, if you're gonna Google storytelling structures, they said that there are about 7 to 9 different storytelling structures. All stories are made out of these different structures. You can Google it. There's like
They
YouTube
have that?
videos on it. Yeah.
They have
Yes.
that?
Yes, there is a Vaughn. There is. Should He even has a
Oh
YouTube
my
video
God.
because he gave this. It's all over. So, uh,
Okay.
so
Okay.
see, Edric, I just gave you lots of freebies. You just have to Google it.
Google has lots of freebies. I just, yeah,
Yeah,
point me in the right direction. So
yeah,
there are, okay, so there are storytelling techniques and structures.
structures.
What? I had no idea.
There,
Okay, this is
it's
new.
all available. It's all available. So I help people in terms of how to find the style that works for you because
Mm,
everybody, we're all unique in terms of our
yeah.
experiences, and we all tell it in a different style. I help you feel comfortable telling it in your style.
Mm,
I help like how do we build suspense, which is something that you can't really read up on. It's about practice and also having someone listen and give you feedback.
right.
Or you could also listen to yourself if you like to listen to the sound of your own voice. Then you can give yourself feedback if as long as you don't
Yeah.
cringe. Takes me a while to like get used to the
That's one
sound
of
of
the
my own voice.
toughest things to get started with. It's to number one, hear your own voice, and number two is to see yourself on screen as well.
Correct.
It's such a
Correct.
strange thing. But have you ever had a client, for example,
Mm-hmm.
that say that, I want my story to be funnier. I want to hear people laugh, but they're like not funny people.
No, it's surprised anybody can be funny. I tell them, stop trying. My main advice is if you want to be funny, don't try to be funny because you're funny when you're not trying.
Mm,
And oftentimes it's fun. It's interesting is how your stories land with the audience. And it's not even when you're not trying to be funny, suddenly people are laughing because everybody in the room has a different sense of humor.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think it's different with stand-up comedian, right? If it makes you laugh, or you still run ideas with other people. If it makes you laugh, then you use it as a joke.
Right.
But in storytelling, it can be a hit or miss. I would say that if it's funny for you and your friends, but then your audience doesn't find it funny, move on. But
Mm,
if it's not funny for you, and it has happened to me, I've told stories where I don't think it's funny, and everybody else is laughing their head off.
mm,
I allow them to laugh, and they were like, I still don't understand why they think it's funny, but it's okay. Like I had a recent show where at one actually, at Ian's place, where this girl was telling this story. It was very serious for her, but everybody in the audience just kept laughing and laughing, not laughing at her, but laughing at the story and how she delivered it. And she's like, it wasn't meant to be funny. Why are they laughing? And my friend's like, it's how she delivered it. It's hilarious. And she wasn't even trying.
so very dry. It was just delivered very
And you,
dryly in that sense.
she said, it wasn't delivered right. It was delivered with passion, but it sometimes lands differently based on the audience.
Mm,
Would you believe I had also a Singaporean guy, and uh, it's funny because so people say, oh, Singaporean people can't make jokes,
mm,
but he was not even trying, and people found him funny. He was hilarious because he was just owning it.
Right.
I think he said like, "Oh, I'll send you the link. I'll email you the link on the YouTube video," because he said like, "Yeah, like basically, like I think she wears the pants in the relationship." He just
Mhm.
said the fact because there is something about being truthful,
Yep.
and that's funny because he was like, "Yeah, so, like I'm sure like there were lots of married couples there who admit, yeah, my wife is the one who wears the pants in the relationship, not me."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing about joke writing. I went down that rabbit hole that
Yeah,
time around, just trying to understand what what funny was. It's so
yes,
difficult to understand that one thing. I mean, Jimmy Carr wrote 2 books on that as well. About joke writing and structure, and there are plenty of books and resources out there that tell you, that's how to set up the
set
punchline,
up.
whatever. But at the end of the day, like what you mentioned, writing it is one thing, delivering it is another. And something they don't teach you is timing. They
Correct.
can't teach you timing. It's such a natural thing of when to pace, how you're going to deliver and wait. And something that they don't tell you is let the audience laugh. Let it
Mm-hmm.
breathe. Like a good
Yes,
wine, you have to let it
fine.
breathe.
Yes.
So in that sense, all these elements are nice, but I think something that we don't probably tell others as well in the journey of storytelling is that be prepared to feel as awkward as you can, because it will get super awkward the first few times, right? You don't know when to stop, you don't know when to pace, you don't know when to you don't understand the eye contact that comes to you, you don't know what to feel. Are these things that
Yeah.
you address as well?
So I give them tips
Hmm.
before. Oh, maybe you'd be inspired, Edric, to tell a story at my upcoming show. The
Oh,
theme is wine and dine.
wine and dine.
Wine and dine. You can
Ah,
talk about dating. You can talk about a memorable
right.
meal.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
wine
I'm
and
gonna
dine.
just list you as a storyteller. Okay.
Hmm.
I think it's better for you to experience it instead of
when
just like
Edric
talking
when I
about
say
it.
that Edric likes freebies, I don't know whether that means going there and doing stuff for free too.
Oh,
No,
well,
I'll do
no,
it. I'll do it for
You're
fun.
gonna pay to tell a story, but
I'm
don't
gonna
worry,
pay
you
to
get a
tell the
lot of
story.
things.
Hot damn! I thought
No,
Edric likes
but
freebies.
you get a lot of stuff in exchange
Yeah,
for
I'll
it.
try. I'll try. Give it a shot. Why not?
Yeah,
Why not?
yeah, yeah.
Sign
Okay,
me up.
okay, everybody, you guys heard it. Okay, great, because I need a man because I have so many women signed up. I need men. I need a
Oh,
man to tell a story.
you need a man. Oh, gosh.
Yeah,
Sorry. Let me help me out here.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Where's that
Oh, you
soap?
can bring a date too. You can bring your wife.
Hmm. It's not. She listens to me all day. I think another
It's
hour
okay.
that
She
would.
can listen to other people
No,
because
no.
you're just gonna tell a 5 minute story.
No, I need to Bluetooth her the suicide hotline if she hears me in there. I don't think she'll be able to take it. It's just nah. She's like it's been 10 years. Enough.
Oh, okay. I'm pretty sure she will like it. And maybe she'll go, I have a story too.
Oh, she's got so many. I'm sure. I'm sure. Half of, as a matter of fact, right? She has to remind me of some of the things that happen because sometimes, like blackouts and things like that.
Yeah,
Too much of the sauce, and yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So she saved my skin a couple of times, and yeah, she fills me in, and
Of what happened.
all I can say is that the next morning when she does tell it to me, she's a very passionate storyteller.
Okay. Oh, I think I would love to have you both as a he said, she said story.
Oh
Same
wow.
story, two different versions.
Yeah, we could
She
try.
said this, and
We
he said
try.
no.
Yeah.
But anyway, but yeah, how did we end up in that topic? I
Storytelling,
digress.
awkwardness,
Oh,
and
pacing. Yeah,
do you
pacing.
prepare people for that?
Yes, I do. So I coach every storyteller before they go up on stage. Hey, this is you get one-on-one coaching from me.
Ah.
That clients pay through the nose for that one. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I because I charge by the hour, but I do get hired. But I give it for people who are going to perform in the show because I want to set you up for success, and I
Mm.
want to make sure you tell the best version of your story possible. So when you have a story, you come to me. We'll have a session. I'll give you feedback as to how I think you can tighten the story, make it tight, how to deliver the story, and then I also give like about a day or two or the weekend before the show, uh, my long list of tips as to how to visualize, how to set yourself up for success when you tell
Mm.
your story. And also tips like, you think this is funny, but nobody's laughing, move on. Just because some people don't really realize that, um, you might get offended, like, oh, how come, or you don't know what to do. So it's like, if they don't laugh, carry on. And then if they do laugh, pause, wait. When the laughter dies down, continue, because you don't want to train them. You don't want, because when people, like our teacher, when we're talking, they talk over us because the teacher is training us to keep quiet, to not interrupt. But in storytelling, like you said, wine, let it breathe. In stand up, you want to train your audience to react. And then after so that you give them permission, because if you talk over them, then you're telling them you do not have a permission to react after my story. So that's so those are like some of the tips that I give to people. So see, you're gonna get a lot out of this when you tell a story.
Yeah, well, storytelling is relatively fun, but that's the thing. We're so used to probably telling it like to friends, right, with people that you're comfortable with. Then the next thing is, do you also position this whole storytelling thing as preparation for public speaking?
I tell people, so because you're telling it up on a stage, it is a form of public speaking, but I make it fun. So most people think public speaking is terrifying, but if you are telling something in a supportive audience who just, and because I have a viewpoint about this is where my viewpoint and stand up and storytelling kind of split up, where people are just honored to hear you tell story and they admire you for your vulnerability. Does that not just fill your heart with joy and feel you encouraged that I am seen and heard, and for these 5 minutes, because you only tell a 5-minute story, everybody is hanging to my every word. So the difference between stand-up and storytelling is, in stand-up, the audience expects a joke and they expect you to be funny and make them laugh. Like, go ahead, make me laugh. Try. Versus in storytelling, oh my God, you're so brave.
It's very, very
totally
true.
different. Totally different. One is like, I'm already here to support you because just you showing up, going up on stage is brave enough already. I'm already clapping for you even before you. That's like, whereas I'm not gonna clap until you make me laugh.
Right.
And it better not just be a chuckle. It better be a belly laugh.
Yeah, well,
so that's
what
the
you get when you
difference.
go open mic, huh?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes. I have gone to open mics, but I tell stories and my stories fall flat with the stand-up crowd because they're like, where's the joke?
Correct. But that's the thing, like there's a certain pacing that you have to do. I mean, essentially depending on your style, isn't it? Some would prefer to give a very rapid fire storytelling, as compared to those that have good ups and downs at a very good pacing. So it's like Jerry Bruckheimer and Christopher Nolan, the movie directors, they have completely different pacing. So
it is true.
Yeah. Then on your end, right? I mean, the more we talk about storytelling, I can feel your passion just constantly just rising and rising and rising. When we started this off, it was, you were tired as hell, but now, you seem re-energized and happy and definitely raring to go for another 3 hours, it seems. At the same time, I'd really like to find out from you, do you have down days, that you just go, I just don't really feel like helping this client today?
I do get down days, but it's not about not helping my client. It's about when I feel my work is unappreciated. As I think sometimes when we do corporate work, right, we sometimes feel that we're being taken for granted and it's not appreciated. So what I normally do is I then ask myself, why am I doing what I'm doing? And why does this matter? And in all honesty, it's not about WYSH, it's about what's your story slam. I do it for the love for wanting to create a culture of storytelling here in Asia. I do it because I do it because of people who've come to love the show. I didn't even tell you the story of the show, but for people who have come to love the show from the moment we started to where we are now, even amidst the pandemic. So I do it because you can go to the show alone and not feel alone, because there is a certain sense of connection you get when you're in a room where people are telling stories. You feel that while our experiences are all very different and unique to us, we all share common themes, and that is the common thread of life. That and by listening to other people's stories, we automatically have something to talk about, and we talk about something that's real and not so what do you do for work, but we
Mm.
talk about something like how this story moved us, and we even talk about the time that we were in the similar situation or we experienced something else. So like for example, I also encourage audience participation in my show, not going up on stage. They write
Throw out
down their little
suggestions, right?
stories. No, no, no,
No?
no. I asked so in my show, uh, for in person, I asked the audience to so I have a storytellers. They will tell their stories on stage, but I will also have slips of paper where I ask the audience, this is how you can anonymously participate in the show. Tell us about the time you so last Sunday, tell us about the time you had to start something new because my theme was starts and stop, and or tell us about the time you had to stop doing something. So people talk about new resolutions. So they talk about time like where they you could talk about the time it, like like it was New Year's Eve and I've been coughing nonstop. It's because of all the smoking. So if I decide to stop smoking, so it's more like so we can or a lot of people talk about like getting divorced or
Mm.
getting a new habit or like I wanted to start a family but he wanted to keep riding his bike, like so some jokes some people write you can be as personal or as flippant as you want, because this is anonymous. Some people write really personal stuff and they also get a good laugh for like entertaining the crowd, but also it's cathartic.
Mm.
You get some of these things out and it's like a confessional. I joke about
Yes.
it. This is like a confessional,
Right, right.
and
It is true.
and people like to hear it.
Yeah, it's true. Everybody loves to hear the sin, but nobody wants to do the Hail Marys after that.
Yes, yeah.
It's the
So
truth. So on your end, I mean, with all these companies that you are coaching, right? Um, what do you personally like keep developing yourself through this? Like, do you improve yourself through their stories too?
I I work on my own stories a lot. So I still perform as a storyteller. In and I put it as a personal challenge for myself now. Like through each of shows, I tell a story myself. So
Mm,
most of the time, so when I first started What's Your Story Slam, my show, I didn't have I was hosting. So I was mostly doing improv. And I had people, and so everybody's telling stories. But then one of my clients said, like, everyone says, like, oh, Anna, you're so funny, but we wish we could hear you tell stories because the only time we hear stories is when you're running a workshop, because that's when I tell stories. But I don't tell stories during the show because I wanted to shine a light on other people.
mm.
But I realized because that was a common comment, the feedback that I was getting, that they want to hear me tell stories. So I started during the pandemic to tell more stories, and I perform virtually because I get invited to perform in different shows, Australia, mostly Australia, the United States, to
Mm.
tell stories on the virtual stage. That I so I have a lot of stories. It's like practically every week I have a new story.
Right, hold on a minute. How
So
did you get this? How did you get your self discovered? Before we carry on, I'm creating an open loop for you. Okay.
okay, how did I get myself discovered as a
Yeah.
storyteller? I would go on open mic nights and I would just meet other storytellers basically. And I meet producers. You meet the producers, and no, most of the time they ask you to pitch a story. Like
Mm-hmm.
I ask people, pitch me a story and I'll put you up on stage. That's it. If you want to be discovered, you have to put yourself out there. You have
Right.
go on open mics, and if they don't have an open mic, they ask for pitches, start pitching. So I would pitch a story. They always have themes, and I would pitch, this is my story, this is my story. So I sometimes I get rejected. And during the pandemic, I was pitching stories. Normally, it's kind of like I'm auditioning in front of the director, and
Mm.
then they will say, "Oh, okay, we'll take you." And
And
because
now,
I'm probably one of the few people
uh-huh.
coming from Asia, most of the storytellers are mostly in the United States or Australia, because it's not really big in Asia, right?
Yeah, yeah.
My unique selling point is I'm coming from Asia. I'm coming from Singapore.
Right. And then
That's my unique
so you
selling
started
point.
off your show. What's your story
Yeah.
slam, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, I started What's Your Story Time because I couldn't find a place here to tell stories. I would go to open mic nights, but like I said to you, the jokes don't land.
hmm,
And I was complaining to my friend about it because in 2019, when I first got here to Singapore, came back to Singapore, I was complaining to him about I had lots of trips in the US. I would schedule my trips around shows so that I can perform, watch stories. Even if I'm not performing, I can listen to stories. I feel energized, and then I come back to Singapore. uh, so my friend says, then why don't you start your own show? So that's how I started. What's Your Story Step? As a dare, as a challenge. Like, why don't you just start your own show? I go, yeah, how hard could it be? Even though I've never done it before, I with armed with watching shows and knowing how to tell stories, I recruited 8 of my friends to tell stories on a theme. The title was Risk Stories About Taking Chances.
hmm.
Um, and I coached them all like to tell their 5 minute stories about evolving that theme. I and then I had to host it, and it was my first time to host an event. I was so scared because I've never hosted anything, and I have massive stage fright. I couldn't do eye contact. I was so nervous, like I didn't know how to be, like how to act in front. So it was a very scary process for me, to like everything I had to learn on the fly and on the spot. So I would say if I watch my first video, I would cringe because I'm so bad. I think one guy who seen me at the first show, and then the next time he saw me was on my fourth show. He said like, "Your hosting has gotten better," and for that was like a big compliment for me. And yeah, so after the first show, people loved it. That I decided to do a second show. It was supposed to be a once and done, but it just so I find having a creative outlet, the show
Hmm.
allows me to do my work. Because if I was just teaching people how to tell stories, it would not, um, I don't think it would bring me as much joy as being also able to do something creative. Because doing things corporate is a little bit too structured. But
Mm.
I get to design a whole program, I get to reinvent it as I see fit. So
Right.
now we're doing hybrid shows. I didn't think I was going to do part Zoom, part stage, but now I'm producing hybrid shows. It was in-person show only, virtual show only, now hybrid, both in-person and virtual. I have performers zooming in from Vancouver, from New York, or from France telling stories in
Yeah.
Singapore and competing.
Oh.
So it's good for me. So like I also now do some virtual events for other people, and host it. It's a new skill set that I picked up, but learning also on the fly. Everything's like it's 2020 was a year of experimentation. So I experimented with doing these things, and it brings me joy because I think I needed that creative outlet.
It's probably one of the best things that probably happened, eh?
It's like for you, I think like Edric. I When I see you, I see your eyes light up when you're thinking about your podcast.
Mm.
Like because like you're learning something from every person you interviewed, and you're also sharing this knowledge to people who listen to you, and that brings you joy. And if it's not for that, then how can you continue on doing what you're doing?
Yeah. Exactly, exactly. I mean, I feel that listening to you, I better myself in that sense, and I'm able to share that knowledge with even my son, who
Yeah,
he's 10, so he's got to pick up these skills eventually, right? Teaching him composition and stuff like that. It's the same thing. He has to learn all these structures and how to do these things.
my niece who's 8 years old, since I've gone virtual, watches all my shows, both improv and storytelling.
So how can
She
somebody
will
watch a
go on
show?
Zoom.
How can somebody watch a
You have
show?
to buy a ticket. Buy a
Yes. Where do
ticket.
we go to buy a ticket?
Okay. So if you want to buy a ticket virtually, it is going to be at https:/bit.ly/WYSS wine, WINE.
Okay.
I can share with you the link,
Yes.
or just look for me on Instagram. What's your story slam by Wish,
Okay. What's your
but
story
with a
slam by
Y.
Wish? Yes.
Wish with a Y on Instagram. So I would normally post. You can buy the tickets there, or LinkedIn. I post. I'm all over social media except TikTok. I still am trying to figure that one out.
One last thing before we move on to the
Sure,
last segment, actually, is
sure.
as a, I would say, well, you're not exactly freelancing, but as a, person running your own company and really doing it yourself for
Yeah.
most of the time. How are you, how did you actually plan your route to making that money for yourself? This part I really want to know, as a one man show or a one woman show, I'm sorry.
So it wasn't okay. I can't say I am a person who is a planner, which is funny because like in my old job, I think I was a planner. I like to plan
Mm,
things ahead of time. But I find that if I think things through, I will talk myself out of it. So I tend to operate with I have a vague idea, a half-baked plan. I think it's gonna work, and I just go. I did that for my show. I did that for my living in South America. Uh, in terms of making a living, I think I was fortunate enough because of the show. People hear about me, and then they start seeking me out. And a lot of my business leads, like they say, right, in sales, everybody wants to buy, but nobody wants to be sold to.
mm,
So when people ask, so how's your conversion rate? I said 100% because 95 to 100% because most of the time they come to me, I don't go to them,
mm,
which makes me think I really should be hunting. So I get through my friends. I am very grateful that I have a lot of friends who are who believe in what I'm doing and believe in what I'm trying to build. That they help get me access to institutions that might have the same mindset as I am, and I'm trying to
mm.
change.
On that note, that's thank you so much for sharing all that insights of being, what storytelling is really all about, the passion to continue to learn, and ultimately, how you're running this pretty much on your own, being self-sufficient and still loving what you do, despite the ups and downs. So with that, we're moving on to the final segment of the show. What we always like to do in the Epic podcast is that we like to do a rapid fire session,
Okay.
just a couple
Okay.
of questions with you. So
Okay.
just let us know what you think. So, Anna Ong and the EPIC questionnaire, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right. Question one word that you love the most,
Love.
one word that you dislike the most.
Unsubscribe.
If you could have a conversation with one person, fictional, non-fictional, dead or alive, who would that be?
Elon Musk.
Everybody loves Elon Musk. Why?
Well,
Anyway,
actually, to be honest, I kind of like it when he's not talking because his stock prices goes up. When he doesn't post anything on Twitter, the moment he starts tweeting, and that's the time Tesla used to tank.
yeah, everybody started investing in a Signal, which was the wrong one, right? Great. Anyway, what do you say to yourself in the mirror every morning?
Today's going to be a great day.
Mm. Name one superpower that you'd like to have.
Time travel,
Time travel backwards or forwards?
both.
Both. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Favorite dish to eat? This is tough for an Asian.
I love inihaw na liempo,
And that
which
is.
is grilled pork belly, marinated grilled pork belly, local in the Philippines.
Ah, okay. And
Can't get it anywhere.
mm, it's true. Favorite travel spot?
Mexico is one of my favorites.
Mm, I've always wanted to go to Cabo.
Uh, Mexico has a lot more to offer than just Cabo.
Yeah, no, I
It
just wanted to
is
see the beaches and all. Anyway, yeah, well, I'm not exactly a summer guy, but if I can get beer and go to the beach, I'll go anywhere.
the Philippines has lots of nice beaches and it's a lot shorter trip.
It's true. It's true. Something in the arts that you've wanted to do, but have yet to do so.
Oh God, I guess it would be singing in a musical or an opera.
Ah, okay. And what does retirement look like to you?
Retirement. Oh God, I guess it's. I think that it's like what I'm doing now, doing what you love.
Fantastic. And last question, how do you want to be remembered? What's your legacy?
She, I, she was seen, she was heard, and she saw me.
She came, she saw, she conquered. All right. Thank you so much, Anna. And that was the epic questionnaire. Now, before we end off the podcast, now, again, when is your next show for your, what's your
so
story
my
slam?
So my next show is on March 9.
March 9th.
If for people in Singapore, it's March 9 at 7:30 p.m. It's going to be at the projector. So just look for What's Your Story Slam by WYSH and Instagram. You can get the details there, or just Google What's Your Story Slam. You'll find it also on Eventbrite, like the tickets for the show. And Edric is going to tell a story.
We'll see.
Wine and Dine.
Wine and
I'm
Dine.
taking Wine and Dine.
Okay.
You're already running your head for stories.
Yeah, I'm thinking about all the drunken stupor that I have to kind of recollect. But anyway, yes. So thank you very much, Anna. And again, the invitation to do the storytelling is a challenge, and I'm up for it. Okay.
It's a not so funny version of stand-up. You can do it. You've done stand-up.
Yeah, it's true. And I
Just
bombed at
be less
stand-up, so I
funny.
should be okay at storytelling.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's it. That's exactly it.
Okay, so that's it from us. All right, I'm Edric, and that's Anna. Oh, sorry, wrong side. That's Anna over there.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks again for joining us in the Epic Podcast, and we will see you next week. Ciao.
All right. Bye.